Okay, so what's coming up next is what I call my backline garden bed. It's like the back fence line of my backyard, and I separate it out because it's kind of a large garden bed. I separate it out from my backyard. This is all part of my summer inventory update tour series for 2023 that I'm doing. All right, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so as promised, my backline garden bed. I call it the backline. I separate it because it's approximately 150 feet, around 4 foot wide, all the way down along the fence line. And I separate it out, even though it's in my backyard, I separate it out from my backyard garden bed just to try to keep the videos as small as possible, mainly. So let's start here. This is a good spot. This here is American plum that I planted. I did a video on that where I showed how I plant on a slope, and it seems to be doing quite well. No supplemental irrigation so far this year, but we've had pretty good rainfall this year, so I haven't really had to. Maybe for my annuals I should have, but my perennials seem to be fine with this much rainfall. And this is a Chickasaw plum. And then I have what I call heritage asparagus, various varieties. Forget all the Mary Washington, of course, and some kind of purple heritage variety is in there, and it's just a mix that I'm trying to get to crossbreed, and it seems to be doing okay. And we usually stop harvesting it around this time of the year. And then we get to the meat of it. Okay, so what you're going to see here, I missed that Gulf fritillary butterfly. We have blackberry, thornless blackberry. We have 1, we have 2, and we have 3 thornless blackberries. You can see more right here. And all around that I have native morning glory. This is native morning glory. And I'm not really going to remove that native morning glory. It actually helps provide a trellis, kind of weave it all together for the blackberry. Doesn't seem to really cause any harm, at least not that I've seen yet. And I have a lemon balm, very delicious, and a Georgia collard. Now this one I showed during the winter, covered in ice, and it seeded, it bolted and seeded. I got a boatload of seeds out of it, and it's still alive. So I think it's a couple years old. I used to have a really big Georgia collard right about here, and it finally died off. It got too dry, and I planted another one in its spot. When I did my front yard garden bed video, I showed how my collards are being just destroyed by cabbage worms, and I said, hopefully it'll come back. Well, I say that because this one right here had 0 leaves on it from the cabbage worms, and of course after they ate the entire thing, they moved on. There's no more food, and then it came right back. So these Georgia collards, I highly advise them. Very resilient to this ecosystem and the pests that are in it. Now, down inside here, this is interesting. I have a fuzzy bean, okay? And I have that growing in a lot of places. I also have prairie tea coming up, and this is peanut. Let's hope that does well. And here's a better example of the prairie tea. Like I said, this is a dense garden bed. Here in the outer edge, we have oregano starting to flower. And this little seed head you see here is garlic. It's actually growing up back here. This is the time of the year where the garlic pretty much dies back. And in the back here, you see we have more seed heads. That's actually native wild onion. And this is the time of the year it also dies back. So I have another, here's another native wild onion seed head growing here. I came back, and we have goji berry, which I really ought to trellis this goji berry because it tends to want to spread out flat, and I don't really like that. I'd rather it be going up taller. So I may do some work there. And you can see I have passion flower going up the old trellis that I had last year, but passion flower has decided to relocate itself up my fence. Seems to enjoy that much more. There's that Gulf fritillary butterfly. Now in the back, you'll see native sunflower, but you'll also see sunchoke. That's what these are. And they're doing really well here. And I left some native sunflower inside the garden bed. I'll probably eventually remove, because underneath that I have common mint. I love mint. So delicious, and more of that prairie tea in there. It helps improve soil, and you can make a tea out of that. It's delicious. Prairie tea, makes sense, right? Croton, Monanthaginus, I believe. We have another goji berry sitting here, and I missed this one. We have a goji berry down in here. Don't get discouraged if your goji berries look like this certain times of the year. I've had them look like that. This is the same goji berry plant. You can see there's a berry on there. And they lose all their leaves like this, only just simply to come back later whenever the conditions suit them. So I have one there, and another one here, another big one here, big goji berry. And we have more of the passion flower, and we got a Gulf fritillary caterpillar on there. And let's get it to focus. Gulf fritillary caterpillar. I give up. And then of course I got a larger aloe, and you can see the pups that I need to get off of here, otherwise it'll impede the growth of this larger plant. And we're starting to get some passion flower blooms. You can see the mint is really liking itself all the way back there. And amid all of that, there is another goji berry plant right here. Okay. And another big seed head for garlic. You can see all the garlic leaves have died back, and there's another goji berry next to it. And we have another thornless blackberry, a quince. This is seed heads from native wild onion, very healthy native wild onion, right next to a seed head for a garlic, which I call my bomber garlic because it grows in anything. In the back you see more of the passion flower and plenty of wild native sunflowers, probably 12 foot tall, some of them. And another thornless blackberry. Nice big wall of thornless blackberry. Lots more shade here, so it enjoys it a little bit better. And I've got a sage down in here. Sorry, it's got spider webbed. Got sage down in here. It's doing okay. And I probably need to get this sunflower out of the way. So you have a couple of choices. See, I'm using the sunflower as live trellis material. One choice is you cut the sunflower. You could prune it out. You could uproot it. But what I like to do is this. That. It will actually live. This little bit of flesh that's holding it on will still provide nutrients to the top. This scar will actually heal over, and that way I don't have to, lose the tip of the plant. So maybe I shouldn't have done that, actually. And maybe the reason why it's growing so well is because of the shade this thing was providing. We'll find out. And then we have another prairie tea down in here. It's actually just spread all throughout this whole bed. And we see more passion flower down in there, growing up with the blackberry. And then I've got some asparagus in the ground, right here next to the asparagus raised bed. And this is a hybrid asparagus. And inside there's passion flower and some more prairie tea, hybrid asparagus. And a lantana. This is the native Texas lantana. Now, you can go get cultivated varieties and you get all different kinds of colors when you do, but this is actually a phenotype that belongs here. I've got this sucker down the road, and this is the native variety. You can see it's going to seed all over the place, doing quite well. Now behind the asparagus, I have a couple of sunchokes, kind of like when I was coming from this direction, I showed you some sunchokes amid the sunflowers. I got some sunchokes here. This one isn't doing so well. That one's doing pretty good. And it's, again, more shade. All right. Now, on to the tomato bed, which is part of the back line. You can see I've got plenty of the Bocking 14 comfrey, and I've moved a lot of the Bocking 14 comfrey out to the edge to try to provide a rhizome barrier against this terrible, terrible Bermuda grass. That one's not doing so well, but it's still alive. And we got this guy, and plenty of sunflowers for shade. And around the base of this tree, we usually have red malbar spinach. And this time of the year, it's usually doing better than this, but it's not doing so well this year. But that's okay. I have it in other spots. More Bocking 14 comfrey. And as we step into the bed, we'll start down here at this side. All right, we got some purple basil, nice little rose, prairie tea, tomato. Actually, tomatoes getting pretty tall here. Got some tomatoes on there. What else we got mixed in here? There's so much. Oh yeah, this right here, these flowers, this is oregano. There's a big oregano bush down inside there. See it? Up in there. With more prairie tea mixed in. This is a garlic that's finished seeding. And some asparagus. We have asparagus down inside there growing with the tomato. Oh yeah, well, here's a better example of the asparagus right here. And let's see, there's the malbar. All this down here is malbar starting to come up. Not bad for no supplemental water. This is just some native that doesn't really seem to provide much use. But yeah, I've got loads of malbar growing up in there. More tomato. And you can see it's getting pretty tall, the tomato. And more tomato in the back, right there. Tomato here. More of the Bocking 14 comfrey. I have a native wild strawberry down there. You can see it. And we have a thornless blackberry growing up in here, which I'll use as a natural trellis for tomato and other things, like maybe one day a passion flower. And I got a tomato up in here, which is finally getting tall enough. Sorry for the fingers. It's finally getting tall enough to grab some sun right here. So it should start doing better now. A big patch of oregano goes all the way over to here. You can see it right there. All this is oregano. And got a little miniature rose bush. It's like one of those dwarf varieties. Yeah, you can see the oregano, it goes all the way back. And another thornless blackberry, which is probably about a little bit shorter than me. Not that I'm very tall, but okay. And that should take us out of the tomato bed. There's likely something I missed in there. There's so much. Of course, I always skip over this wood sorrel, but I did do a dedicated video on that. There's a couple of asparagus that I didn't show, but I think you get the idea. Make sure there's nothing I missed. And we'll get over here to what I call the blackberry section. We've got some late arriving blackberries right here. Thornless, all this is thornless blackberry. And I've got a quince down here. He's doing quite well. And behind that quince, we've got another big patch of oregano. All that is oregano. And I've got a sage nestled down inside, doing all right. And let's see. Yeah, these blue flowers, these are not native, but they're kind of naturalized. So I let them grow. And of course, there's more of that garlic, which is finished seeding. And some more garlic that hasn't finished. And I've never had it grow from seed, but it's still every year it produces a seed head. Sorry, technical difficulties. Have spiders crawling on me. That's got to be taken care of immediately. You know how that goes. And more of the thornless blackberry you can see growing up in the back. Let's see here. And we will probably, let's see if there's more to show here. Yeah, I had some sunchokes growing in the back here, and they're not there anymore. Just a couple more things I'm going to show. I know that there are some plants that I skipped over in the rest of the back line, but there's a better example here, easier to see. This is called fuzzy bean, and I do believe it has some at least questionable edibility. It might be edible. There are some archaeological accounts of it being eaten, so I let it grow, and it at least does improve soil. If you ever uproot it, you'll see the little nodules on it that fix nitrogen. And what you see here is not thornless blackberry. This is native blackberry, and I'm going to let this stuff go basically nuts. Right there, big old little spot. And the fuzzy bean. And that's all I want to take you back here to show you is the fuzzy bean. Now right here, this empty dead spot used to have sunchoke, so I'll have to replant that. None of the sunchoke made it.